Hi friends, today we're making watercolor coffee filter snowflakes. For this project, you're going to need coffee filters, an aluminum pan, a cup with water, pipette, your watercolor palette, and green, blue, and purple liquid watercolors. Once the coffee filters have been stained, you're also going to need a scissors, pencil, and the snowflake templates. The first thing we're going to do is stain our coffee filters. I'm going to be using 9 total, so there will be 3 in each stack. So I'm going to make 3 stacks with 3 coffee filters each and place them all into my aluminum pan. And then I'm going to use my pipette to suction out some water and wet down my coffee filters. So I'm going to squeeze the bulb and then stick the bottom into the water and then release the bulb for the water to get inside of the pipette. And then you just squeeze the bulb again to release the water onto your coffee filters. So squeeze, put it inside, and then release a little bit with the bottom still inside the water, and then squeeze the water onto your coffee filters. We want the coffee filters to be pretty wet so that the colors are kind of pastel and so that it disperses over the whole thing. So if you see any spots that are really dry still, you can go ahead and add some more water until pretty much all of the paper is all wet. And next we're going to be adding our color. So I'm going to open up my green, blue, and purple liquid watercolors and put a little bit of each of them into the wells in my palette. So I'm going to unscrew the top. Make sure you just unscrew the top part and not the whole tip. And then just squeeze. Oops, I made a little mess. Squeeze until about half of the well is filled. Squeeze slowly and carefully so you don't spray everywhere like I did. And then I'm going to put a little bit of blue in the next well. So once again, unscrew the top cap and squeeze until about half of my well is full. And I'm putting the tops back on so I don't accidentally spill it while I'm working. And then finally the purple in the third well here. And then I'm going to grab my pipette again and using the same method, squeezing, putting it inside the liquid and sucking it up, and then squeezing it back onto my paper here. I'm just going to apply all of the colors however I feel onto my coffee filters. And you can just have some fun with it. I'm going to add a little bit more water to my pipette and kind of water down this blue a little bit. And suck it back up and add that to my coffee filters. And just keep going with all of your colors until you like the way it looks. We're only going to be using these 3 colors that are cool colors so that the snowflakes will feel a little bit chilly, but also so that they blend well together and won't make any muddy or brown or yucky colors. We want this to be just cheerful and happy and wintry. This is one of my favorite art projects that I like to do every year because it's just so much fun to put the colors onto the paper and watch how they blend and flow together. And it is always a little bit unexpected, and that's kind of the fun of it. So just go ahead and keep adding your colors until pretty much all of the white has been covered by color. If you notice, the purple is really dark, so you might have to add a lot of a lot of water to the purple in order to make it lighter. And when these dry, they turn out a little bit too purple. So if you want yours to be a little bit more blue, you might want to add more blue to the mix. So if you do run out of color in your wells, then just go ahead and add some more. I just didn't want to add too much at a time. I'm also going to experiment here with mixing the color in the well first. So I'm mixing some clear water with my blue watercolor and adding that directly onto the coffee filters after I've mixed it in the palette. I'm just going to speed up the video now, but you can go ahead and take your time and just really experiment and have fun with it. You can either mix the colors in the well or directly onto your coffee filters and just do whatever feels right for your artwork. Once you're done applying color everywhere, you can just let these dry right in the aluminum pan, and it might take a few hours and up to overnight until they're fully dry. And then when they're all dry, they'll be ready to start cutting out into snowflakes. Now that the coffee filters are dry, we're going to be using a scissors and a pencil and the watercolor templates that I sent you, but they'll actually be a little bit smaller like this one. So I'm going to start by just cutting out one of my templates, and you can choose whichever one you like. So I'm just going to cut along my straight line here and then carefully cut out each of the sides. I'm just going to do my best to cut on the lines, but as always, it does not have to be perfect. For this part, I'm actually going to just cut straight up and come back and cut out that little triangle after I've cut out the whole thing. And that's just a little trick I use to make cutting a little bit easier. You might also notice that I tend to move the paper around instead of moving my scissors around as much. So I'll turn my paper in order to fit into the scissors instead of the other way around. Okay, so here is one template here, and you might be wondering, how is that going to become a snowflake? So we need to fold our coffee filters into sixths. So first you're going to fold it in half and do your best to make it as even as you can, and then fold it in half the other way. So I'm just matching up my edges, and then when I make my fold, I use my finger to really crease it. And then I'm going to fold this triangle into thirds. So I'm folding it 1/3 of the way, and then I'm going to fold over the other third on top of it to make a tiny little wedge like this. So if you can see, they line up pretty well, and just do your best to line it up. And then you're going to place your template on top of your little wedge here and use the pencil to trace the template onto the coffee filter. So I'm using a pretty firm hand to just trace around the template, and then I'm just going to cut it out. So if your coffee filter didn't end up folding exactly, so your template might be a tiny bit smaller, just make sure that you don't cut the sides of the wedge. So we don't want to cut off all the sides, or else your snowflake will fall apart. So we want to make sure that it does stay connected on both sides. And then you can go ahead and open it up and see what it looks like. Ta-da! And there's your first snowflake. So let's try some more. I'm just going to go ahead and cut out all of the wedges now. Once again, I sped the video up just so that it's not so much time of you watching me cutting out. But take all the time that you need to cut out your wedges nicely, and you can pause the video if you need more time. You also don't have to cut out all of the wedges if you don't like them. And you can also design your own snowflakes. You can use the blank wedges, or you can just draw directly onto your snowflakes and kind of design whatever snowflakes that you like. You might want to try a few of the templates that I provided first before you design your own, just to get an idea of what the different patterns will look like once they're open, or just go ahead and wing it. It's really up to you and how you want to do it. The reason that we fold the snowflake into sixths is because we want to make it like real snowflakes that have six-sided symmetry. And that means that each of their 6 points is exactly the same. So our snowflakes kind of resemble the real thing. And also, like real snowflakes, each of ours is going to turn out a little bit different and unique. So I'll show you one more time how to fold it in half first, lining up the edges as much as possible, and then half again in the other direction. Just lining up the corners and the edges, and then into thirds. Now, if you're having a little bit of trouble kind of figuring out how much a third will be, you can use one of the wedges that we just cut out, and that will be about the right size. So you can take one of the white paper wedges and place it inside, and then just fold your edges of the coffee filter over. So you're using the white paper as a template for your folding. And then once you have your skinny wedge, you're going to take another different template and fit it onto the wedge, and then trace it on with the pencil. For your darker colored snowflakes, it might be a little bit harder to see the pencil, so you might need to press a little bit harder. Once again, if yours doesn't fit exactly onto your coffee filter, just make sure when you're cutting to leave the sides of the wedge intact and not cut off the sides. So for this particular one, there's a lot of horizontal lines, so I just cut all the horizontal ones first and then went back to cut them out and pull them off. So it can be a little bit tricky to work in these tight spaces. Just do your best and try to be careful not to cut any parts off that aren't meant to be cut off. So if you notice, I didn't trim the 2 straight sides at all so that they stay connected when you open up your snowflake here. And there we go. There's another design. And then I'll show you the rest of the designs, but I will speed up the video. So you can experiment with the different templates that have been provided and see what fun shapes that they make. And you can also think of your own templates or just make each one unique and draw directly onto your coffee filter or just cut it out freehand.